Mike, is the mic on? Good morning. Good morning, everyone, and welcome. I am Patty Baum, and I'm chairing the investment committee for the Baltimore Community Foundation, and I am so excited to have all of you here. It's really great to see you. There's a number of fund holders here, donors, professional advisors, just people interested in what we're doing at BCF, and I'm really grateful to all of you for coming. The investment of BCF's endowment fund is a crucial element of how the Community Foundation serves Baltimore. Investing with a long-term time horizon to secure the future of Baltimore is really central to the deliberation that we make in terms of our investing choices. At the meeting last year, we were close to completing our shift from active management to an index strategy. Today, we're really excited to be rolling out our new impact investment program. BCF is fortunate to have a group of investment professionals that are on our investment committee. We'll introduce our committee members in a few minutes during the presentation, but their bios are on pages 10 and 11 of one of the brochures that you have at your table. Before we dive into the investments, though, we have a special item on our agenda, which is to honor those professional advisors who promote philanthropy in their practices. So I'm going to invite Shanesha Sauls and Rosemary Calderalo. Shanesha is BCF's president and CEO, and Rosemary Calderalo is BCF's director of gift planning, and they will do the honors.
Thank you. Thank you, Patty. I am delighted to be standing here with Rosemary, my colleague on staff, who is the Director of Planned Gifts at BCF. Rosemary, among other things, is our primary contact for our professional advisors, and it's quite fitting that she joins us in the latest round of inductees. Our Professional Advisor Recognition Society is Baltimore Community Foundation's way of recognizing professional advisors who demonstrate a commitment to the community by working to advance philanthropy and encourage charitable giving across Baltimore. Currently, the Professional Advisor Recognition Society includes the following individuals: Bob Blue of Royston, Mueller, McLean, and Reed; Eddie Brown of Brown Capital Management; Marty Brunk of RSM US; Nancy Bryant, Bryant's Financial Advisory; Lee Carpenter of Sims, Bowen & Sims; John T. Falkingham, Private Practice; Sandy Gahn of DLA Piper; Jeff Gagne of Venable; Chester Hobbs of Bodie, Delina, Smith & Hobbs; Chaz Jones of Thomas & Libovitz; Stenard Kleinfelter of Brown Advisory; Fred Kuntz of Whiteford, Taylor & Preston; Kristen Lambros of Kristen C. Lambros LLC; Mary Gadara, Loker and Private Practice; Rika Newman of P.B. Mayers; Len Sasson of Gordon Feinblatt; Natalie Sherman of Gallagher, Avilius & Jones; Jim Smith of RBC Wealth Management; Shayla Stiller of DLA Piper; Lisa Strong of Mr. Burton & French; and last but certainly not least, Bob Waldman of Venable. This year, we are naming 3 new inductees into our Professional Advisor Recognition Society. Their professional bios can be found on pages 4 and 5 of your booklet. I'd like to say a few words before we resume our program about each of the following individuals. First, I'd like to introduce D. Crystal Alfred Cooper of DeVita Financial Planning, LLC. Crystal's firm, DeVita Financial Planning, uses Crystal's first name, DeVita, which means giving life, which is a wonderful way to position the work that she's doing as a financial planner and on behalf of our community. We're grateful to Crystal for serving as a volunteer grant reviewer for our Neighborhood Grants Program and for contributing to our newsletter, the BCF Edge. Through her work with FPA of Maryland, Crystal has sought to expand the understanding of the importance of charitable giving in the Baltimore area and the awareness that by helping one individual, we help to uplift our entire community and the world. We're proud to call her a partner and to recognize her passion for community by inducting her into BCF's Professional Advisor Recognition Society. Crystal, please come forward. Crystal, we're going to ask you to say a few words on behalf of your colleagues.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Sauls, Dr. Colorado. Good day. I just want just a few words, actually. First, that I'm honored to be in such company. Just met my counterparts, and this is really exciting to be here today. I'm looking forward to continued collaboration and partnering with BCF in your mission and your goals of encouraging philanthropy across the city of Baltimore and the surrounding areas. So that's exciting. I'm a Baltimore native, and who would have thought that this East Side girl would grow up and be in a position to help have an impact on the future of the communities that we serve, and I'm excited about that. With God, all things are possible. So I want to leave you with something. This is a poem from Dr. William E. Mays, and it just talks about our time in this space. I have only just a minute, 60 seconds in it. Forced upon me, can't refuse it, didn't seek it, didn't choose it, but it's up to me to use it. I must suffer if I lose it, give account if I abuse it. Just a tiny little minute, yet eternity is in it. Eternity is in it. So I ask you, what are you choosing to do with your minute to help make things count? Philanthropy, charitable giving is certainly a great way to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Crystal, for those inspirational words and allowing us to honor your work in the community. Next, I'd like to introduce Jonathan D. Eisner of DLA Piper. John has a long history with the BCF, having previously served on our Development Committee and the Professional Advisor Steering Committee. Through many years, he has supported his clients as they seek to make a difference in the world through their philanthropic giving, and we know what an incredible difference his work has and continues to make for the community. We welcome him into Baltimore Community Foundation's Professional Advisors Recognition Society with gratitude for his impact and his caring heart. John, please come forward.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for this wonderful honor. It is amazing to be in the company of these two folks, as well as others who have been inducted in prior years. I'll just say a brief comment or two. First, I feel incredibly lucky. I work with families who philanthropy is in their blood, they're looking to give back, and I'm just lucky to have a group of families that I work with who think that way. In the city and the surrounding community, we're also extremely lucky to have BCF as a resource for our clients who want to give back and want to be prudent and want to make a real impact with their giving. So the combination of clients who are already really ready, willing, and able to assist, and then you can complement that with BCF, and you get people really giving back to a city. And I think we've got a lot of growth in the Baltimore area and the city beyond, and places like BCF and clients who we work with and all the advisors here. We're all part of that renaissance. So thank you today. And again, I'm honored to be part of this group, and let's keep pushing for the city. So thank you very much.
And finally, someone with a special connection to BCF, and as I found out this morning, a special connection to my trajectory in Baltimore, Frank Ladinsky of the Law Office of Frank G. Ladinsky. Frank and his family have been involved with BCF personally through their association with the Richard A. Ladinsky Senior Fund for Excellence in Public Service. This BCF fund makes an annual award recognizing employees in public service in the city of Baltimore in memory of Frank's father, a deputy comptroller under 8 Baltimore mayors. In his law practice, Frank has a quiet and unwavering commitment to his clients, supporting them through critical changes in their lives. We know that when he makes a referral to BCF, there's no doubt in his mind that it's the right fit. We welcome you, Frank, into the Baltimore Community Foundation Professional Advisors Recognition Society. Grateful to you for your work and your partnership in so many ways to benefit a better Baltimore. Please come forward.
Thank you for the distinction of being selected as a member of the Professional Advisor Recognition Society. Although I had often heard of the Baltimore Community Foundation, my first contact didn't come until 2004, when then Mayor Martin O'Malley created the Richard A. Ladinsky Senior Award for Excellence in Public Service, named in honor of my father, as an avenue to recognize city employees for the first time. When doing so, the mayor turned to BCF to help establish and administer the award. Now in its 13th year, the city, the award committee, and my family have worked closely with the foundation to see to its continued success. I and my law practice have greatly benefited from the many programs and seminars that the Baltimore Community Foundation has sponsored and the resources it has to execute the exact intentions and goals of the beneficiaries and their legacies. Recently, Rosemary was able to arrange a meeting with experts in oncology medicine for guidance in the preparation of a testamentary endowment related to that field. And I want to add, we get to the end of this rather long and detailed discussion of cancer treatment and research, and Rosemary says, well, you got to think ahead, and someday when there's a cure to cancer, what's the purpose of the endowment at that point to, you have to change the purpose and all that. So it was a very good point that she brought up that we hadn't thought of going into it. So, and in the spirit of mixing business and some fun, I was fortunate enough to tour the Ravens training facility and spend a wonderful evening with Dick Cass at the Ravens Castle in Owings Mills, thanks to the BCF. So on many levels, I benefited from my partnership with the Baltimore Community Foundation and look forward to our continued working relationship as a member of the Professional Advisor Recognition Society. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, all of you, for your comments. I've had the pleasure of working with John before. Frank and Crystal DeVita, wonderful comments. Thank you. I, at this point, like to introduce or to tell you the members of our investment committee at the BCF. And for those of you who are here, and many of you are, please stand when I say your name. George Bunting. I don't think George is here. Cheryl Mickle, T. Rowe Price. Chip Morris. Bridget Peterson. And Matt Weiskell. Thank you all. Thank you. There's a lot of work that these folks are doing behind the scenes, and I feel really lucky to have their expertise. So the presentation today really is about the BCF pool, which is where all of our endowed funds, meaning the funds that are permanent, are invested. Non-endowed funds are invested in the Vanguard Total Treasury Money Market Fund. We do offer non-endowed fund holders the option of investing in the BCF pool if they have a longer-term time horizon for grant making. The slide up here is going to show you our most recent returns. They're also in your packet if you can't see the slide. They're in the brochure on page 6 of the handout. And then page 8 shows some additional information on performance. But our pool enjoyed a 10.4% return over the last year through March 31st. And for the first quarter of 2018, the pool was down about 80 basis points, or 0.8%, a little bit better than the benchmark return, which was down 90 basis points, or 0.9%. Our U.S. equities, which is invested in the Vanguard Total Stock Market Index, was up 13.9% compared to 13.8% for its comparable Russell index. Our non-U.S. developed, or what international funds, were up 16.1% versus 15.6% for the index, the Vanguard index. Emerging markets were also slightly ahead of our benchmark and returned 21% versus 20.6% for the Vanguard index. Our bond portfolio, which is invested in the Vanguard Intermediate and the Vanguard Total Bond Market Indexes, were slightly below the Barclays Index to which they're compared. Our only real area of underperformance this past year was in our hedge funds, which, as you know, we are in the process of unwinding, and they're now just about 1% of the portfolio. Our goal is to get out of all of our hedge funds over time, and we've been diligently working to unwind those over the last 2 years. They're just not very liquid investments, as you know, and we began liquidating them almost 2 years ago, and now are down to a very insignificant position. But we're loaded with fees, so I'm happy to say we've really done a good job of lowering the costs. The table of asset allocation, which you'll see, and it's also on page 7 in your booklet, gives you additional detail about how our investments are allocated. Our target asset allocation, which we're looking to have 38% U.S. equities, 25% international stocks, 7% emerging market equities, for a total of 70% target in stocks. Our target for our fixed income is 23%, bonds, 23%, with an additional now 4% targeted for our impact investment program. We have to maintain about a 3% cash position most of the time because we have to be ready to distribute funds when we're asked by our donors. I'm happy to say that our transition from active to passive, we've reduced our investment fees annually by about $200,000. That is really significant, and it's going to have, and has had, and will continue to have, really material effects on our returns. As I've said before, investing foundation and endowment money, you have to think like you're a 25-year-old with a very long-term time horizon. But it's a 25-year-old who has persistent and habitual spending patterns. So our goal is to grow your principal for the longer term so that we have to own stocks. That's an imperative. However, we really have to always remain mindful of the fact that we'll be distributing a portion of the assets every year. So we have to maintain an appropriate level of cash. So it's likely that in an up market, we're going to just be a little bit under the benchmarks. We know that our donors expect us to grow the principal of their endowed charitable funds, ensuring that your funds will go on permanently. This requires a diversified portfolio, a disciplined rebalancing process, and a steady hand. And I said in my most recent investor commentary, volatility and uncertainty are the norms now, and they've been for a long time. People talk in the news about how we're in uncertain times. Times are always uncertain. Our job, and with this program that we're now doing with active and disciplined rebalancing, is to take the human emotion out of the process. Because we know that portfolio returns are not just about the performance of the indexes, but they're also relying on investor behavior. Human beings, let's face it, can make bad decisions based on fear, based on media noise, but even on real geopolitical events. So having a stated target allocation and rebalancing to those targets allows us to buy stocks when stocks are down, and more importantly, to pare back when we think the market's going to do nothing but go up. So now I'm excited to get to the part of the program that I think a lot of you have been waiting for and are curious about, and that's the rollout of Invest for More, which is our name for BCF's Impact Investing Program. Patty Chandler, who I hope you know, she's the Vice President of Finance at BCF, and I just spent 3 days in Chicago for the Mission Investors Exchange Conference. The idea of starting an impact investment program at BCF really kind of was kicked off by the same conference that we attended 2 years ago. It happened to be held in Baltimore, so we were lucky we got to be right here, and that's really how the idea got sparked. And at that time, 2 years ago, I'm going to say there were maybe 5 or 6 community foundations there. We had a very small breakout session. It was just a very small group. And a couple of the foundations had already started their program, but most of us were just exploring. This year, I'm going to guess there were 4 to 5 times that many community foundations there at the conference. It was amazing. Some of them have really been on this program for quite a while. Some, like us, have just started and we've gotten our feet wet. And there are a lot of community foundations that are still in the exploration process. I have to say I was really proud of BCF because this 2-year process, which has been very deliberate and thoughtful and thorough, I think it's really been faster than a lot of community foundations are able to achieve. And I got to say, we got support from the investment committee, from the BCF staff, and especially from the boards. But what I really came away with at this conference is this. We are indeed at a crisis in this country. And there's nowhere that it's more pronounced than in the city of Baltimore. So mere traditional philanthropy has not solved our problems, nor can it, nor will it. Baltimore continues to experience growing income inequality. There simply is not equal opportunity for all of our citizens. Neighborhoods across our city are blighted, disinvested. Their communities are in despair. Evidence of homelessness and helplessness are everywhere. If our problems continue to grow unfettered, the greater community, which we all know and love, is not sustainable. After all, the BCF vision statement is, Baltimore boasts a growing economy where all have the opportunity to thrive. Let's face it, that is not happening yet. The time is now to address our challenges with every tool that we have available to us. Now, I, like many of you, have come to this through a traditional investment philosophy. I've been investing in stocks and bonds all my adult life. So I came to the first meeting not sure, a little bit skeptical, but I know now that the traditional foundation model, where our investment committee works hard to make best returns and alpha we can, and our grants committee over here is making grants, that is just not enough anymore. It's no longer defensible for our investment strategy to simply seek financial returns and nothing else. I believe that in order for the BCF to be successful, to realize that vision statement, we have to use all our resources, all of them, for the greater good. We cannot simply grant our way out of our problems. The time for urgency is now. So I'm happy to say we have made our first impact investments. We know that term means something different to everybody. It's one that our job is going to be to make sure everyone understands what we're doing. Our challenge is going to have you understand how this affects your money that you have entrusted to BCF and your charitable funds. We started our program the low-risk way. I'd like to say we picked at low-hanging fruit. We are partnering with local CDFIs, which are Community Development Financial Institutions, to make loans in the community. With our board's approval, we're doing this with a portion of the fixed income allocation in the big pool, which is where our endowed funds are invested. We aim for a 3 to 4% return, and these investments, unlike our bond portfolio, are not going to be interest rate sensitive. We expect our investments to have social returns as well. And we're fine-tuning the metrics that we will be able to use for measuring our impact. We're going to lend our money through partners that will increase affordable housing, foster healthier neighborhoods, and help small business people who simply do not have access to capital. All investments will be right here in Baltimore. So before I hand this off to our impact investment panel, I just want to say this, just from a personal standpoint. This impact subcommittee is one of the most dynamic, energized, and passionate group of people that I have ever worked with. They come from all areas of expertise. They come from foundations, local foundations. They come from financial services firms and local CDFIs. They are dedicated, thoughtful, and passionate. Our due diligence work, which really starts with our staff, and thanks to brilliant efforts by Eva Wingren. Eva, stand up. The due diligence is thorough and rigorous. And I can tell you from experience yesterday in our investment committee, it is thorough, thoughtful, and we all ask really important questions. We offer members of the Impact Investment Committee in the room to stand. Oswaldo Acosta, I don't know if Oswaldo's here. Matt Gallagher, I don't see Matt, of Goldsecker. Darius Graham of the Weinberg Foundation. Amy Perez Jackson of Brown Capital Management. Bridget Peterson of Brown Advisory. Thank you. Alex Ream of Johns Hopkins Technology Ventures. So I would like to start by asking the panel to come up. So Beth Bafford, Calvert Impact Capital, and my daughter. Proud to say. James Walls, Annie Casey Foundation. Vernon Reed, recently retired from T. Rowe Price. These are all three members of the Impact Committee as well, and Kevin Griffin Marino, who's the Interim Director of Programs. We're going to ask you to start, are you going to sit here or are you going to stand here? I was going to stand. Okay, good. We're going to start by asking the Impact panel to just mention a few words about what they do, why they're here, what made them join this committee.
Hi, everyone. Is this on? My name is Beth Bafford. I'm a Vice President of Syndications and Strategy at Calvert Impact Capital. Calvert is a nonprofit impact investment firm based in Bethesda, Maryland. We've been around for about 25 years, and our goal is to really prove that the financial markets can be a force for good, and that our economy can work for more people more often. We invest in community and economic development here in the U.S., here in Baltimore, and around the world. And I came to this space really to merge the worlds of the nonprofit, kind of social impact world, for-profit, and public sector worlds that really intersect in this kind of crazy world of impact investing in which we live. And really for the reason to say that to solve the global challenges we have to work cross-sector to really understand and get at the root causes of inequality, poverty, and lack of opportunity for people here in Baltimore, in the U.S., and around the world. I joined the committee because my mother told me to. No, but I consider Baltimore my adopted hometown. I grew up in Annapolis, but my family lives here in Baltimore. My nieces and nephews live here in Baltimore, and my goal is to make this city a better place for them and their future. And so it's been my honor to be on this subcommittee, helping BCF move into the world of impact investing and really expand their reach and impact on the city of Baltimore. So thank you.
Good morning. The reason I'm on the board is I got ordered also. Stu Sims called me and said, let's have lunch. And I was like, Stu, it's either going to cost me or I have a job to do. So I elected to listen to him, and I got emails from Ms. Davies, and then I was late. I missed the first meeting. I came to the second meeting. And the thing I was impressed with was how prepared the committee was, how smart they were, and how committed they were to the city. I grew up in West Baltimore. I still live in West Baltimore. I always thought that corridor down North Avenue was the center of the city. A lot of people think it's West Baltimore Street, but I always thought it was North Avenue. And a lot of the things we were going to be engaged in is along that North Avenue corridor. I'm just blessed working at T-Row, being part of Baltimore, having enough to share, and this is an opportunity for me to share my blessings. I appreciate it.
Good morning, I'm James Wallace. I'm the newest member to the Baltimore community. I'm a senior investment analyst at the Annie Casey Foundation. I sit on the social investments team, where we manage actually roughly about 4% of the endowment in terms of social investments. Why did I join the committee? Because I'm selfish. And this is the reason why I say that. It's because we're always looking for local partners that are interested in impact investing. And so when we learned about the Community Foundation's foray into this work, we decided we need to be a part of it, and we wanted to help the Community Foundation think about its strategy. So I'm really excited to be on the committee. And why am I in impact investing in general? Is because I get to use a suite of tools to drive impact. So I can do everything from credit enhancement all the way to private capital investment to really drive programmatic outcomes at the Casey Foundation, and previously when I was at the W.K. Kellogg Foundation.
Thank you. So I'd like to just tell you a little bit about our first 3 investments, and then I'm going to ask each of the the impact panel members to talk about them for a second. But as you may know, we really started with about $4 million that was allocated to this process, to the impact program. And the first investment we made was to Enterprise Community Partners, really one of their pools. And Enterprise you may know them, but they have a long history in affordable housing, and we made a $500,000 commitment to them. And we laddered notes so that we have money coming due at different times. I think it's 3, 5, and 7 years. And the second investment we made was with Healthy Neighborhoods, which is a CDFI that we've worked with for years at BCF. And we're doing a bridge loan, a $500,000 bridge loan for them. And this is backed by the state. They have they repay credit. So these 2 first investments really were slam dunks, very easy to make the decisions about. The third one we just got approved yesterday is to Baltimore Community Lenders, BCL, and this is a sub of theirs, which is BBL, and we're going to have some more information about that in a minute from Beth. So why don't we start with the first program, which is Enterprise.
So because I'm the newest member of Baltimore, I have the easiest investment to talk about. So many of you in the room are very familiar with Enterprise Community Loan Fund. They have done work across the nation in terms of affordable housing, commercial real estate, and mixed-use development. And for me, and I will talk about it from my perspective of why I really like this investment. One, because clearly it's a fairly safe investment if you look at impact investment in general. But for us, for the Community Foundation, we saw this as a great way to extract best practices nationally. Because Enterprise is one of the leading loan funds in terms of real estate, we have the opportunity to partner with a national community development financial institution, or CDFI, and really extract best practices as we continue with the portfolio development. So for me, that was really exciting. And then on top of it, they have a strong track record within Baltimore. So they've committed over $60 million in Baltimore during its history. They've supported over 3,000 affordable housing units. They've supported 56,000 square feet of commercial real estate space within Baltimore. So we really got the best of both worlds. We get the national practice, we get a national organization, and at the same time, they have a strong commitment to the city. And when we look at the pipeline, you can see they're focusing in Druid Park and Hollands Market. So in reality, they're really a focus on the city proper, where we're really trying to drive program outcomes at Casey and then also at the Community Foundation as well.
Yeah, I want to go back and speak to the issue of commitment from BCF. I remember sitting in on an investment committee meeting. I was invited, and you had Laura Gamble there as ex officio sitting in on the meeting. And then we also had the impact meetings, and we had Ms. Saul sitting in the meeting. So it's commitment from the leadership. In terms of HNI, that's a Healthy Neighborhoods Initiative. BCF basically created the institution in 2000. It became a separate nonprofit in 2016. They have a grant of $1.25 million from City Strive and also from 21st Century Schools. I think the Strive has something to do with improvement, revitalization, and education, something to that effect. But they're earmarking the money for two different areas. One's in West Baltimore. It's the Reservoir Hill area. Reservoir Hill, in terms of demographics, north would be Druid Park, south would be Bolton Hill, east would be Jones Falls, and west would be Pennsylvania Avenue. And the other is, they call CHUM, CHM, and that would be over on the east side, where you have Montebello and Hampstead communities. North would be 33rd Street, south would be 25th, east would be Harford Road, and west would be, I think that's Loch Raven. So that's the areas. So these areas in Baltimore that really need investment and commitment. The thing that impressed me most with the loan was the fact that in terms of grants, HNI is a $9 million institution in terms of assets, but they have about $26 million in grants. They've never defaulted on a grant. So our grants for their grants for 1.25, our loan is for $500K. We haven't funded it yet, but the loan, the thing that impressed me the most was I fell in love with Patty when I found out how she negotiated with Mark for the type of loan. It was a lot of back and forth. She and Eva are terrific. They are terrific. Eva is so prepared in terms of the due diligence and the kits. It's a professional job. And Patty is so good in terms of negotiation and knowing the T's and crossing the T's and dotting the I's. So the loan, Vernon Reed, my background is fixed income. I know a little bit about fixed income, Cheryl, not that much, but my background is fixed income, and I'm willing to bet this group that when this loan is funded, because it's part of your fixed income portfolio, it will be the best performing part of your fixed income portfolio for 2018. The loan is a LIBOR-based loan. LIBOR beginning of the year was 1.56%. LIBOR today is 1.96%. And the rate is 3% above LIBOR. So the rate is 5% and growing in terms of the interest rate, and it should be a good performer for the portfolio. I was really impressed. And you can talk of being low-hanging fruit, but the point is this low-hanging fruit is being directed to really important segments of the population in Baltimore. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
And I have the pleasure of talking about the Baltimore Business Lending Initiative that Baltimore Community Lending has recently launched. And this was really an effort of BCL. Folks might be familiar. They've been doing real estate lending for a long time in the city of Baltimore, but really went on a listening tour a couple of years ago now to understand how they could increase their impact and diversify their products of lending into the community. And what they heard was really that, that access to jobs was a critical issue that their real estate investments were not really reaching. And so they decided to create this program to increase access to capital for small businesses, who we all know are the real drivers of economic activity and inclusive job creation in the city of Baltimore, so that those businesses can grow their business, increase their customers, expand their markets, and hire more people here locally. So BBL, Baltimore Business Lending, we made a commitment of $500,000 to their program to get it off the ground, really looking at lending to businesses that don't have access to credit otherwise. So there are some incredible CDFIs and banks who lend to small businesses in this market, but most of them require significant collateral for those businesses to access capital. This product takes that out of the equation so that business owners without assets to borrow against can still have the opportunity to build and grow their businesses, which is a unique product in the marketplace, not only here in Baltimore, but nationally. So we're really excited to help spur this initiative, understand the impact of these small businesses. They launched a couple of months ago and already have significant pipeline and volume of business owners who have raised their hands, who need access to financing, to buy a new truck, to have working capital, to increase their inventory so that they can meet the growing demands of their businesses. And so we're really excited to help fuel this effort, learn from this experience, and continue to support the small business ecosystem here in Baltimore.
Thank you all so much. Again, I'm Kevin Griffin Moreno. I have been working in the programs department at BCF for a while. And I'd like to very briefly put this work that you're hearing about in the context of BCF's overall community impact. First and foremost, when we think about the ways that BCF affects positive change in the community, we think of grants. And those are the core of our community investment, community impact work. You may also be familiar with strategic initiatives such as the Central Maryland Transportation Alliance and the Middle Grades Partnership. These are initiatives that are aligned with and that aligned with BCF's values and that extend the impact of our core work. A few years ago, we recognized that one way to really move the needle on several critical issues, particularly education, was to become involved in public policy advocacy. So we've been doing that for nearly a decade. And impact investing constitutes the latest tool in the Foundation's kit for effecting positive community change in Baltimore and throughout the region. So in the time that we have left, I'd like to put a couple of questions to the panel. First, I'd like to ask if Patty can explain how BCF fund holders and others can participate in these types of investments.
So there's a couple of ways that you can participate in our impact program. One is if you are setting up an endowed fund, your 4% of the total pool, of course, is going to be invested in these notes and this program. So you will be investing in the program just by nature of having a fund that is endowed at BCF. We are also going to set up a separate impact pool, which will be, if you walk in the door at the Community Foundation and you want to decide how you want your money invested and you have a longer-term time horizon, you can choose to have your dollars go directly into the impact pool. And depending on your time horizon for grant making, that will dictate what percentage of your assets will go into the impact and what needs to be in cash. And also based on the size of the fund. And we're asking that fund holders who choose that impact option will give us it'll be a 7-year lockup for the money that goes into the loan pool. The third way would just be a donation or a grant. We are happy to accept grants, donations to the impact pool. In fact, we're hoping, we've heard from a number of donors and in focus groups that we did, that people are interested in just actually donating to the pool, which would be wonderful.
Thank you, Patty.
Wait, can I just, I'm sorry, one more thing. This new brochure, which is on your table, I think is terrific, and it outlines those options in it for you.
Thank you. I'd like to allow enough time for at least one or two audience questions. So just as a heads up, I have one more question to, oh, I thought we had a mic. Okay, Patty will be by with a mic. The other question that I had was, had to do with risks. Obviously, these are investments. Investments carry some degree of risk, and I'd like to invite the panelists to briefly describe what the foundation's risk tolerance is in this area.
So I won't speak on behalf of the foundation in terms of their risk tolerance, but I will speak about the risk of these initial investments. As you've heard from Verna and Beth, there's a lot of credit enhancement to support these investments. For the enterprise loan, we actually are guaranteed by enterprise for payment for loss. They have an asset balance sheet, asset size of over $200 million. And they've set aside loan loss to support this note. So because of that, it's very, very limited risk, especially for these initial investments, because we're still building the portfolio. I think that's a critical piece of this work here, is that we're trying to develop best practices. We're trying to work with the best partners in terms of developing this portfolio going forward. And I remember our first meeting, we had this conversation about how much risk we want to take up front, and then as we get more comfortable with the investment protocols and the procedures, then we can think about taking more risk as we try to drive greater impact.
A couple of things about the risk. I mean, I will say we've chosen initial investments that have very low risk, but I will also say that I have learned along the way that we have to step out of our comfort zone a little bit in this. And what's really important, we want financial returns, but it's so important that we measure impact. So we may be a little bit more on the risk riskier end of the spectrum at some point, but we really look at the stability of the repayment source. We look at the position that we're going to be in the capital structure. We, of course, look at past performance of the CDFIs, and we look at the percentage that we're going to be of the total CDFI assets, keeping in mind that we want to promote racial equity. We want to you look at the number of jobs created. We want to look at gender equity, gender makeup of the organizations, number of jobs created, and the number of homes improved. I mean, those are some of the metrics that we will look at.
Thank you.
The 3 loans you have this year, I would sleep well at night about. 2 years from now, when she comes back to you with riskier loans, I think the question's going to be more apropos.
So we have enough time for a couple of questions from you. So if you have one for our panelists, please raise your hand, and Patty will be by with a mic. Well, we're recording it, so we want to make sure that it gets picked up.
I'm just curious, when you decided to make these 3 loans, did you look at any other loans and decided those were too risky or weren't in the core, wheelhouse of what you're trying to do, or were these the only 3 that came before the committee?
Yeah, we have looked at quite a few opportunities, and Eva and Patty have managed kind of an active pipeline of deals, and we go through a kind of pre-clearance process first, where we look at the opportunity, understand the organization, and their impact locally, and then we look at the kind of financial situation and potential risks of the investments. So we have reviewed other investments that we have decided to not pursue up front. These were the ones that kind of bubbled to the top, that felt like they were the best mix of risk, return, and impact in Baltimore. And so we are continuing to be discerning as we choose these opportunities. That being said, the universe of really strong CDFIs in Baltimore is not huge. And so we will need to continue looking for opportunities kind of outside, as Patty said, outside of the comfort zone to really understand how we can help build capacity in the city. And so we will continue to look for opportunities to invest along strong partners, as James mentioned, but also look for other organizations who are seeking capital for investment that might not have a 20, 30-year track record.
Thank you. We have another question over here.
Hi. I just wanted to ask, you mentioned that for the HNI, that the loan was structured in such a way that it was, I guess, around 5%. Are all of these loans going to be structured in the same rate system? How does that work? We're talking about the 3 different ones.
Go ahead.
Well, I could say for enterprise that the impact note is up to 3.5%, and we have a ladder structure built in. So not every loan is going to be at 5%. I think that's a unique case. I think HNI is a very special transaction. If you look at traditionally across impact investing, usually you're going to see loan returns interest rate returns, between 2 to 4% is usually going to be the range that you're going to see. The 5% one, I would say, is an outlier, traditionally in impact investing.
And the loan started roughly at 4.5 because it's floating rate. Interest rates are rising, so it floats at higher rates. The level now, it's 5%. A year from now, it's tougher to discern.
And I'll just say, I think we are looking, because this is a part of the endowment, we are looking for appropriate risk-adjusted returns. So we look at the risk of the underlying transaction and look at the returns we're getting for taking that risk. And the goal is to have a diversified portfolio of risk-return profiles in the impact pool.
And I think we have time for one more question. Ready to go?
Yes, thank you. I'm Carlisa Hussein. I have a donor advised fund, and I give scholarships. And I'm very excited to hear about looking at impact measurement on communities. And I've been talking to Patty and others and hope to contribute so that we drive that impact analysis down to communities and to people, because that's where we want the impact to be measured to change this community. So I thank you very much for this effort.
Thank you, Dr. Hussein.
Thank you.
First of all, I'm Barbara Mikulski. I'm a new trustee, and I would like to just, first of all, thank you for this excellent presentation and obviously well-organized, well-thought-through campaign. I'd like to just put on everybody's radar something that's coming from the advocacy committee of the Community Foundation. And these are impact public funds, because our philanthropic dollars should be in addition to public funds, not in lieu of public funds. So 2 big things that are going to impact our city. One, the Kirwan Commission. And the Kirwan Commission will determine the formula of the state funds that will come to Baltimore for the education of our children. The other, though, that's not on anybody's radar, that I'm going to be troubadouring a great deal, is the census. The census will be, most federal funds that come to the state and come to municipal subdivisions are formula-driven, from Medicaid to mass transit, from school lunch programs to after-school activities. And the census is encouraging every mayor, county executive, local government to establish a community counts committee. We'll be talking to the mayor about that and to Governor Hogan. But as we go in to taking the 2019, the rest of 2018 and 2019, we have to get ready to take the census. Baltimore had one of the worst records in the last census. We don't want that. We have too many hidden figures in our Latino community. the homeless. But I don't mean too many. We don't want them to be hidden. It's not that they're too many. We don't want them to be hidden. So it will be so determinative of the federal funds that our mayor or any mayor will get, or our county executives in local communities. And it only comes once every 10 years. So if we don't use it and make use of it, we will lose it. And for those from the 501c3 world, the census is constitutionally mandated. So when you're involved in it, you're not involved with politics. It's civic engagement. It is our civic responsibility to participate in the census and to make the census a success. And this can be then make sure we get our fair share so that then your impact dollars really then maximize that. So we'll be back talking with you about that. Kerwin and census will be really big drivers.
Thank you so much, Senator, for that. A teaser of things to come. As we wrap up, I would like to thank each and every one of our panelists, our subcommittee members who are doing such important work. I also want to very briefly acknowledge the vision and leadership of Patty Baum. And I'd like to, inspired by Crystal's remarks, I'd like to leave you with a thought that whether or not you choose to co-invest with Baltimore Community Foundation on these impact investments, I hope that this presentation has you thinking about all of the myriad ways that you can partner with the foundation to help Baltimore and the surrounding region. You've just heard a number of different tools that we can use. And if I may close by echoing Crystal, we have a wonderful opportunity, each of us, to see how to determine how we are going to spend that minute. And impact investing through BCF is a great way to do so. So I thank you all for your time, and I wish you a good day.
Thank you.
Good job.
Tremendous.
Thank you, guys.
Tremendous.
Excellent. Thank you. Thanks, Beth.
Yeah, of course.
Get out of here as soon as you want to.
I want Eva to meet Nick.
Oh, and you should, I was thinking I want to put that there. You go ahead.
What?
Oh, where's Nick? I'd like to meet Nick too.
Yeah.
Thank you, James.